Buddy, happy Friday. We've got some really cool content here today. As you know, we've got Tristan Ahumada, myself, Chris Tamm, and we are guested by Michael Valdes. Michael, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Sure. Thanks for having me on, guys. So I'm the Chief Growth Officer for eXp Realty. For those that don't know, eXp is the largest independent real estate company in the world. We're just shy of 88,000 agents across 24 countries.
Awesome. And thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Some of the content we have today is going to be really interesting. We're talking about what we see and the conversations that we're having about the future of organizational artificial intelligence. So a little bit different from the last ones that you've seen us do, where we're talking about the implications of ChatGPT or Midjourney or some of these tools as you connect together. This is going to be from the organization side. As organization, I mean, when you think about what Michael's looking at every single day, 80-some thousand people and what that looks like and the amount of data and the questions. In Tristan's world, when you have 175,000 people you're connecting with and trying to help them get what they're needing to do. And also in the world that I play in across different companies, and then also the automation AI conversions that we've helped with across different industries, same types of challenges. Sometimes you have somebody with 10,000 customers, sometimes you have somebody with 100,000, and those are different ways of looking at how you use artificial intelligence. So thank you both for taking the time and talking about this super, super nerdy stuff as the rubber starts to meet the road. I know we all have a bunch of stuff we could talk about. We could probably riff on this for hours, but Tristan or Michael, do you have an idea of where you want to start?
Well, listen, I think just go ahead, Tristan.
I'd like to start with Michael. I was going to say I'd like to start with you. So perfect. It was perfect, Michael. It was perfect.
This is such a big topic, right? And I know that we're probably going to focus our conversation on real estate, but just think about all these different sectors. You know, a good friend of mine just got out of back surgery yesterday, and he was saying to me today, the amount of paperwork that he had to do in the healthcare industry just for his procedure was mind-boggling. And the idea of AI coming into the healthcare industry could be astronomical. And so, you know, you start sort of thinking about these different sectors. The three of us are really focused on the real estate industry. And when we start talking about that, you know, people that are afraid of the AI technology entering our industry, it's really the inverse. It's the idea that the technology is going to make our industry so much easier. It's the idea that it's going to streamline what we're doing. If you're an agent, you start thinking about, imagine if AI can be your transaction coordinator and can get a lot of your stuff off your desk, get your listings onto MLS, get your contracts that are MLS and legally compliant, like done without you having to do anything. Imagine how much more productive you would be. Imagine how much more money you'd have in your pocket because you can increase your revenue and your number of sales that you're doing. And you start having all of these opportunities that exist when you start thinking about it from an enterprise point of view. So from a large brokerage like the one that I work for, the one that Tristan's involved with, and you start thinking about where can AI come into there. Imagine, like, you know, and I know we're going to touch on it later in this conversation, but imagine even one topic like onboarding. Onboarding has been so antiquated with all of our large real estate brokerages where it becomes a very cumbersome approach. Imagine if you had AI into the mix where you could, you know, sort of cut the time it would take an agent to onboard from, you know, almost an hour to like 5 minutes. Imagine the opportunities that exist on an enterprise capability there. So I think that sort of like some thoughts to open up discussion.
Yeah, dude, that's a perfect place to start. Yeah. And we've seen a lot of different conversations online and in person that take shape around the idea of artificial intelligence. But what we're finding all across the board for the general population is that there's a hesitancy to fully jump in to accept where this is all going and how fast it's going. I think that there's a disconnect there for sure. But if we just stick to the general population, in all fields, right? Because you always have the fast adopters, and then you have the big chunk of people. It's like, well, let's wait to see what happens. And then you have the bottom portion, which is, this is not going to work. This is not for me. The world's going to end. Whatever you tell them, it's going to end. I'm going for the middle, larger population, right? However large that percentage is. There's a mindset shift that needs to happen so the adoption happens faster. Because the one thing about this that's different than a lot of the other little things leading up to this is that this will take out most jobs if you're not the one looking at and saying it, how can I apply it to my business so that it's not happening to me, so that I'm not a statistic. And I think with real estate, we have 1.5 million realtors. I don't know how many real estate agents, but realtors. Who's to say that we don't end up with half 5 to 7 years from now? Because the majority of real estate agents, and this is just reality, the majority of real estate agents don't do very much. 2, 6, 8 transactions. Yep. Those are the ones that this is going to take out, because there's no reason for me as a consumer for anything I buy. I don't want to talk to anybody. I would rather just message them. And if it's an AI that has all the data I need based on it being uploaded and reaching all of Google, then I'm probably going to go that route. And if I really need to talk to somebody, then it better be somebody damn good like you, Mike, that can answer my questions and has the experience, right? And that's what's going to happen, but nobody's talking about that.
Yeah. And, it's that adoption, right? It's the adaptability of that, because everyone's afraid of new technology when it comes out. Everyone's afraid of it, right? And even the title, artificial intelligence, right? Like what does that mean? And so even the title turns people off. It's sort of like, well, if it's artificial, then it's not real. If it's intelligent, how can it be more intelligent than I am? And so you start sort of creating your own scenarios in your own head, and you yourself become the first blocker to not even sort of see this, but allow this in, where even that person, Tristan, that you're saying that does 6 transactions a year and AI can get them out of the business, the flip side of it is that if they actually embrace it, it would actually make them successvel.
Oh, yes. Dude.
Yeah.
In the world that we're heading into. Yes. Chris, what do you think, man?
So that was a really good point. I have an opinion on that, which maybe we're all saying the same thing from different angles, but the idea of we need a mindset change to get the adoption. I think it's a little bit reverse. It's the chicken or the egg argument, because all of this stuff, if you look back to Stanford in 1980, the first convention of the AAAI, the Convention on Artificial Intelligence, self-driving cars, AI artists, and these talking databases were all in existence in the 1980s, 40 years ago. And we went to AI winter, and we didn't use them, didn't talk about them. They kept getting developed. But this is the 43rd year since then. And now we finally have consumer adoption at large scale. But I think the difference there, the mindset change for adoption, I think it's the right implementation to get the mindset change. Because like some of the projects that we've been involved in and seen and been talking about, that even lead to us having this webinar, this conversation today, when you see the right implementation, people's eyes light up and say, okay, now it's time for me to pay and use that. And so I think it's a little bit of chicken or the egg, that if we can show people the right implementation, then they say, well, that's the easiest thing to learn. It's actually easier because I don't need to learn anything. It's helping me without me needing to tell it anything different. And now we're at the point where we're seeing those being adopted in the corporate space. And I think that leads and helps people say, okay, I can use this in my personal life. I don't know if it's going to start from the personal side.
That comes down to a few things, but I think at the bare minimum, the ability for humans, specifically here in real estate, for real estate agents, to not take the time to see how a tool or a piece of technology can be implemented into their business, because we're so reactive, man.
Yeah.
That I think is probably the biggest challenge we have to deal with. Because look, I'm looking at this. Let me see if it'll share my screen really quick. There it is.
Share.
Perfect. This is called AI Tool Guru. There's a lot of directories that are popping up like this, but look at this number. almost 1,800 AI tools, going back to exactly what Chris said, right? It's a matter of just understanding, how do I apply this AI to my specific needs? And then on a very basic level, we're seeing that creativity is lacking when people are on Chat GPT and they're typing in, write me a sentence for marketing my house, enter. Like, dude, come on.
A little more,
right?
Yeah.
So you hit it right on the head. This is a prompt issue, like creativity issue. Like, let's go deeper.
Yeah. And I
you
think
know, one of the
things
other things that's exciting now is that those that have adopted, you know, Chat GPT, for example, let's just use that for a moment, and have used it, and they're saying, wow, this is amazing, this is incredible, right? One of the drawbacks that people start talking about is the fact that it doesn't have a memory, and you can't build upon it, right? So now the next iteration that I know that, you know, the three of us have been playing with is creating AI with a memory, which at that point, it actually starts becoming a valuable tool for someone, as opposed to something that is a cool piece of technology now, but I'm not quite sure how to use it.
Yeah, that piece, I think when that sinks in, what you just said, it's a little, for me, it's a little mind blowing, because you have these tools like that can create a picture or answer something. And when you take what you just said and you connect it to memory, maybe to take it one little further is to how many memories and for what purpose. And they can use those different memories for what you need to really help you in a lot of different areas. And that and I think one other piece, which is available today, it's not fully released, and who knows where it's going to go with regulations. But the next step of a lot of these releases is things start doing things. And so when you have memory and they can start doing things for you, when it's not like the idea of going to Zapier and connecting something, pretty soon it's already available. It's just not publicly released. GPT can build those zaps for you. You just tell it what you want. It'll build the zaps. You don't even have to touch it, and it'll be fully connected. And so adding memory and then adding the ability to do things really starts to let it back off and say, well, can you just do it for me? And that's a different level of, I don't need to go log in and look at it anymore. I can just ask it, hey, do it. Or it suggests to me, should I do this? I say yes, it just takes care of it for me.
I like that, man. I think we take it one step further on the memory. I love where this is going, by the way. By the way, if you're listening in, this is actually how our masterminds go when we're just talking.
Yep.
Which is hilarious. Oh, Mike, you said the memory, and then Chris, you're like, okay, yes. And then it builds on itself. Now I'm thinking, it's like, wait a second, why can't we? Because the sucky thing about going into the Chat GPT, it's like, it doesn't remember stuff, right? It's like, I have to start all over every freaking time.
Exactly.
But if it starts remembering, like you say, which it will, and more importantly, if it starts acknowledging, got it, Mike, you're a real estate agent in Miami. You know what? There's a few other real estate agents in Manhattan and LA that are doing this. Maybe you should try this. Do you want me to try it for you? And then it just goes on a whole different vertical.
Or just think about Miami, you know, looking at your example, the two real estate people that are in LA or New York, that AI can say, by the way, they also mentioned they have clients looking for a place in Miami. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a referral source that came out of AI.
Yeah.
Because it had a memory.
You're always trying to make a business out of it, Mike.
I always try to find the bug.
That was really good. I'm like, oh shit, that was really good.
Find the bug.
To that point, it starts to break down the barriers. We had a conversation yesterday about this with 10 different cross-industry business owners, not real estate. One was in commercial real estate. And we were talking about the idea of today, Mike, you send me an email, I look at it on the screen, I go research something, I ask somebody else through text and email and another screen, they look at their screens, pull up details, send it back to me, I send it to you, you look at it, it goes into a CRM that Tristan and his staff pulls up on a screen and looks at and makes sure that's in DocuSign. Like, and then the virtual assistant does something. We're passing stuff from screen to screen. And in this new world, we're not. The data's there, and we're just letting the AI work with it and tell us what we need to do when we need to do it. And it can do a lot of that analysis that we're looking for. And then we just get to look at the end product and say thumbs up or thumbs down. And it's a little muddy to see that until you see it done in a really smooth way. And we get to step back and just have a process we get to check on and not have to think about what am I missing every day. I don't know. I wish we could show some of these next pieces that have been worked on right now. I know it's going to be a little bit so everybody sees it, but.
One of the things you just sort of said, which is so exciting, is the idea of why not sort of not only have memory, but collective memory, right? Because then all of the different AIs that you're going to be using will have collective memory. The way that AI works now is that it'll search the history on the internet or whatever it is and creates what you're asking for. But if every user that is a user of AI now has a memory based on their own activity that can interconnect with everyone else's activities in a certain sector, now that memory serves to be very specific for your needs. So it's not just the history of whatever's on the internet. It is the memory of what is serving you in a particular sector, in a particular goal, that's going to be the collective memory of every other AI user, which now becomes a collective pool that will be of use to that sum that's all looking in the same pool. That then becomes much more powerful.
I think if I would say that to some audience, their head, they would just glaze over. They would start drooling like that.
That actually reminds me of the Borg from Star Trek. I don't know if you guys remember the Borg in Star Trek. Assimilation.
I'm too young for that, Tristan.
That was good. So a piece to that, though, we've had conversations with this going back couples of years, is maybe goes to also not to bring, well, yes, to bring blockchain into this, but some people, when you say something like what you said, Michael, I've seen some people get a little bit scared of the idea of, I don't want my knowledge accessible to everybody whenever they want to, but it could be useful if it's recorded. And so we've seen some implementations, and it's not necessarily difficult to do anymore, where you take that knowledge. So Michael, if you have knowledge, or if I do, or if Tristan does, we push it to our own personal blockchain where nobody knows what it actually is. It's just numbers and data, but we own it. And whatever chain it's on, it could be on 10 backed up. It doesn't actually matter. But now I can give you or these other systems switch on and off access whenever I want to any of that information. So I control and own my data, everything about my clients, everything about my thoughts or what I've done or my calendar, my text messages. But when you and I become best friends, I'm like, no, you can see all this stuff. And I just flip it on, and all of a sudden your systems know all of my stuff, whatever I want it to. And if you flip it on, then my systems know your stuff also, but it's controlled and owned by me. So I don't have to be afraid. I can turn it off whenever I want. Whereas today there's a piece of the world where it's like, I don't want that person having all my information. I don't want them seeing every website that I go to. And depending on who you talk to, that can be a concern. I think there can be a world where this information exists with so much of it, but people still have their own privacy whenever they want. So they choose how to engage with this really intelligent technology.
Okay, I'm going to take a little step back. I don't know which one of you said this, but you said something about prompting ChatGPT and adding in Zapier so that we can create some process. I don't know which one said it. Well, one of you said it, and then I thought, okay, we can actually do this and showcase this to show the simplicity of what we can do, even though it's complicated. We just have to start thinking outside the box. And I literally did this in the last 30 seconds. I just jumped in and I put the prompt on ChatGPT. I'm using GPT-4. Here we go. GPT-4, could you create a prompt for me for follow-up boss to Agent Legend on Zapier that touches past clients with a text to remind them that I'm here to help? Simple, right? Not too deep, not too complicated. Yeah. It went ahead and told me the triggers and what to do here on Agent Legend. So I simply went over to Zapier and I put in follow-up boss, which we have, Agent Legend, which we have, and then it gives you an option right here. We're going to tag the contact, and then the contact's going to be added to a campaign, which we already have. And then we can just start we can start it right now. But the idea of what you just said, it's like, wait a second, we can already do this. It's simplified. We just have to piece the things together. And I think that's where, going back to the very beginning, Mike.
Yep.
A lot of us are just stuck there because we don't want to test things out.
That's it.
In that next piece, Tristan, so that's still today, but the piece that's been developed that hasn't been rolled out yet, and ChatGPT can already do this. They just haven't released the feature, but you can read about it online and they'll show you it happening. Is that ChatGPT will actually itself log into your Zapier account, create all those automations, plug it all together for you, and it'll be operating. You don't, it's not telling you what to do. It actually does it. And when you tell ChatGPT to book your Expedia or to order that food, it doesn't tell you what to do. It actually is starting to go do it. And that's already built through the GPT plugins, but it's not released yet. And so the next wave that's already here, depending on when it crashed against the shore, AI starts to do these things for you. And like some of the tools that we've been working with already do that, just not ordering you dinner in the real estate space.
Yeah, but I mean,
you could order you dinner too if you wanted.
Yeah. You ordered dinner last night, Chris. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mike and I shared a pizza. It was great.
There you go.
I think that's also where,
that's true.
If you know what's going to happen next, like immediately next, right, fast, we can start planning ahead and saying, well, I guess I need to pivot my admin, right? I guess I need to pivot my ISA, my business, so that I can start progressing faster and not having to let go of people, but now they have different duties so that they can function at a higher level and we can scale faster.
It's that idea of using the technology to grow and supplement your business, not to be afraid of it, to think that it's going to ruin your business, right? So it's really the adoption of it and understanding how that plays into your current business model, because it does.
That's true. Yeah, that idea of like using this as leverage to be more human, it's not the threat that, oh, our jobs are going away. That is so true, because there's so many things we don't even know what's going to roll out, how it's going to roll out. To assume that we know what the end result is a little assumptive. What we've seen, even inside of like one of our operating firms, we had 2 employees that pivoted because their jobs were really no longer needed because of these tools. They took the time, and we spent the time and energy, and they pivoted into this AI automation world. And they're amazing at it because their skill sets, how they see things, they do different parts of it. But that's amazing for them. It's amazing for us. And they adjusted with the tool sets. And yes, their skill sets are still what the tools can do now, but they understand it so well. It's helping them. But yeah, it doesn't have to be removal. You can adjust to these. And yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's look, we're all talking about real estate, right? And it's the idea that when we're the 3 of us are working on a project where we start talking about the lifespan of an agent, from the very first company that they join and how they progress throughout their real estate career, and how AI can help in that journey and stay consistent with them throughout that entire journey. So think about the onboarding, think about training, and it doesn't matter what firm you're with, right? Yeah. Then think about how you want to be communicated. And then finally, like, I want to sort of excel and need some coaching now, right? And so those 4 different steps of an agent's life are critical. Mike, and the idea, go ahead, Tristan.
On that piece, because you just give me another idea. Like, why not do the exact same thing? And that's being built, like Chris says, but you're in the middle of doing what you just said. It's like onboarding, coaching, just retention, and then you message this AI that helps and says, yes, can you also do me a favor and set up my follow-up boss account with the right zaps for, and it does it automatically. So that, there you go, Mike. Sorry, I had to tell you that, because
no, that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. But you sort of think of it as you're controlling the technology, not the inverse.
Yeah.
Right. More people are so afraid of technology is going to control me. Once you sort of get into the headset that you're the one controlling the technology to make your life simpler, it's a huge paradigm shift in the way that you're looking at this and how you actually excel at it.
Yeah, And I come from a little bit more on the too technical side on that, because I've been in like the software exec and starting those types of companies. What you just said, Mike, I think there's a piece of nuance there that this may not be applicable to our audience, but the idea of me having to go into a settings page and understand and check 50 boxes or not check them, that's a big emotional lift. I have to know what all those mean to be able to check them, and I don't even know what I'm missing out on. Whereas these technologies have the ability to manage us and help us understand by dripping on us, by understanding our behaviors, by knowing what we're doing and not doing, and by prioritizing based on what it's learned on every user. What might I want to know about first based on where I'm in my business today and what my behaviors are, instead of saying, here's a screen, go learn about these 50 and figure it all out on your own. Or you have to hire some coach to educate you on all of them. It becomes semi-intelligent, helping you manage your business. And it just gets better with time. And you don't have to retrain it. You don't have to send it back to school. You don't have to have it train its replacement when it quits. It continues learning about you to help you, and you tell it how you want it to adjust. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Mike, you've got a minute, so you show up to your next meeting on time. What most excites you about AI next, just for the next few months, because it changes so fast, but what most excites you right now?
Listen, I always say that greatness happens in down markets. When we start sort of thinking about 2009, right, where we probably agree was the last sort of huge down market, think about the companies that came out of that. Uber was founded in 2009. WhatsApp was founded in 2009. Venmo was founded in 2009. And you start sort of thinking about these things. These things have become sort of like verbs in our vocabulary. It's sort of like, I'm going to Venmo you, Tristan. I don't sort of say I'm going to use a financial cash app sort of application to send you money from yesterday, right? It's sort of like, I'm going to Venmo you. It's sort of like, let's call an Uber. You're not sort of saying, I'm going to call an automobile sort of like car sharing service. They've all become verbs in our vocabulary. And when we start thinking about technology, that when it first was introduced, when you started sort of thinking about, like WhatsApp, why do I need another text system? Well, you realize that when you're going into all of your international friends, it's not going to cost you a cent to do that, and it's encrypted. And when you start sort of thinking about all of that, how is this making my life better? And so now when we start looking into another possible shift in our market, this is where the greatness will happen. This is where the next sort of paradigm shift of where we look at technology in our own business. We're going to look back 15 years later and sort of say, that was the time that happened.
Yeah. That's awesome.
This is that time right now. This is so crazy. That was really good. I wrote down 2 things that I was like, now I know why you're running everything. Okay. So
yeah,
just
I have like 6
1 minute. I was
just
like,
from that.
Oh, that makes sense. Oh shit. Now I know why he's in charge. Oh, that was really good, dude. Thank you. Thanks for being on, man. We need to have you more.
Oh my
often.
God, it's my pleasure. It's always fun to play with you guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
We'll talk soon.
Take care now.